Welcome to Personality. I'm your host, Lori Rawlings from Lori Rawlings and Associates. And my guest today is Pat Daniels, who is the Executive Director of Constructing Hope in Portland, Oregon. And Pat has guided her organization from a former community development corporation to what is now the Constructing Hope Pre-Apprenticeship Training Program. She developed training curriculum with industry partners at Northwest College of Construction, Hoffman Construction, and Pacific Northwest Carpenters Institute, and received state certification in 2007. Under her leadership, Constructing Hope has increased job placements from 16 to 83 annually. And she's developed direct entry with the Carpenters programs, the laborers, electrical, cement masons, sheet metal, ironworkers, bricklayers, and the Northwest College of Construction apprenticeship programs. Pat was born and raised in Mississippi and Northeast Portland, and she earned her MBA at Concordia College. And she's worked her way up from secretarial duties all the way to executive director. She's an active member of her church community, and she's also received numerous awards, including most recently the 2020 Daily Journal of Commerce Icon Award and the 2020 Business Diversity Institute, Inc. Leadership Award of the Year. So, Pat, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me today.
Oh, it's great to have you. So, Pat, can you tell us a little bit about Constructing Hope's mission and its history?
The mission of Constructing Hope is to rebuild lives of people in our community. And we're rebuilding the lives of people in our community just through training in the construction industry. As we were researching to find out where is an opening for folks who were formerly incarcerated to re-engage in society, we found that construction was the only place in 1995 that would hire folks who had a felony background. But with that, it was a great pleasure to find out that the construction industry is also very well paying. And for someone to make a living wage coming out of incarceration, where your average job is working at a gas station, where you're making less than minimum wage, is no way to re-engage in society and start a life. So having the opportunity to enter construction trades and begin at living wages that begin anywhere from $22 to $25 an hour starting out, that's a wage that a person can really start their lives over.
That is a really good point, Pat. I mean, the construction industry, it's a great career opportunity, not only for people who are trying to re-engage in society, but people who are just trying to find an actual family-sustaining career, which is so difficult in today's world because of exactly what you pointed out, the great wages, but also the benefits and things like that. So it's wonderful what you're doing. How does Constructing Hope go about selecting the students for placement in the pre-apprenticeship program?
Okay, we work with several organizations. So one, we work with people coming out of incarceration. So we work directly with the prisons and we work with the jails, because I'd like to catch people in the jail before they go to prison. A lot of times it's the opportunities that they are presented with, and everybody does not find college as a good fit. So one of the ways that we outreach is through youth, and we have a summer youth camp. In this summer youth camp, we're outreaching to high schools and students in the community through other programs to introduce them to opportunities to get introduced to construction while they're in high school and understand that it's a great career path, as well as when they go through the camp, they have an opportunity to go directly into Northwest College of Construction, because as we partner with them for the camp, Northwest has all of the several trades under one household. So we can get exposure to those many trades, as well as getting exposed to green training. At the end of that camp, these youth that are 18 and 19 have the opportunity to go directly into the trades. So going directly into the trades mean that they have the opportunity to enter Constructing Hope Pre-Apprenticeship Training Program, or they can apply directly to Northwest College of Construction because they built that relationship during the 5 weeks that they're being introduced to the trades.
Oh, that's so cool. So what skills do students learn both during the youth summer camp and through the regular adult construction training program that you offer?
We look at things from attributes, and we have 6 attributes that we say Constructing Hope is basically sharing. The first one is work ethics. A lot of times when we're coming to school, high school, if you're not in class on time, there's no penalties for that. But when you start employment, there is an expectation. So we begin with work ethics. Our youth camp starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they get to punch in, just like our adult program that starts at 6:30 in the morning, and they get to clock in. So getting that work ethic down, that it's important to be at work on time. And the other thing that we look at is skills. We're teaching hard skills and we're teaching soft skills. So in those skills, one is math class. In the math class, a lot of the work that you're doing in construction is math related. When kids are in high school, they can't connect the relationship to construction work until they get an opportunity to do something like the activities that we do at Constructing Hope, where you're actually building. The other part is they can go back to high school and determine if they'd like to enter a trade or if they truly want to go to college. For the adult side, it's making sure that they have the math in order to enter the trades, so that when we look at the higher mechanical trades, we're meeting everybody where they are when they come into the program, and then we're moving them from adding and subtracting fractions to algebra and geometry, so that there is a direct connection to the work that they're doing. And that's when the light come on for most people who feel that they can't do this work because they don't have the ability for the math. So it's us introducing applied construction math.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And that's a really good point. I think that most people who don't work in the construction industry have this misconception that construction is all about just brute labor and it doesn't require any sort of higher intellectual skills. And it's completely wrong. I mean, there's quite a bit of math that is used every day in the field in terms of measuring things and figuring out the circumference of a pipe and things like that. So it's really important that people be well grounded in math. So it's great that you're giving people that skill that they can apply in the field.
And I think it's also about project management. Because when you think about each project is different, but they're also the same. It's just all the components of what's going to happen in this particular work site.
Yeah. And, I think the other skill that you mentioned that's so important is just the work ethic, which you're absolutely right. That's not something that we really focus on in our traditional education pathway. And it's really important in construction that you're on time and that you're ready to work hard all day because you're working with a crew. And so you being on time, it's really important that you're there, and because the team can't start work until everybody is there ready to go. So it's great that you give people that kind of skill. So I mean, what specifically do you work on with your students that sort of kind of instills and develops that work ethic for them?
The skills that we're working on is one, like I said, attendance, getting there on time. They have different classes, so there's a math class. But when we look at the bigger part in life skills too, we also talk about being physically, not physically, but being assertive and understanding the culture of where you're going to work. When we're in an office, it's not about the pace of work and being so aggressive to get things done. But when you're working in the construction industry, you have to move with the purpose. And so just understanding the culture of where you're going to. We also talk about physical and mental toughness. We tell people the truth. When you're going onto this job site, the culture is so aggressive that if someone's asking you, like they may scream at you and say, get this. It's not being rude. You're in a loud work environment. So let's be conscious of the environment that you're working in and all the things that go along with being in the industry, having to move quickly, understanding safety. And then life outside of work is another thing that we talk about. And when I say life outside of work, in the construction industry, there is a lot of federal dollars there. And for the rest of the world, that marijuana is legal. Right now, it is not legal in the construction industry. So understanding, again, the culture of where you're going and what are the expectations once you get there. So Constructing Hope does 3 consistent drug tests. They're random. And when you pass those drug tests, that keeps you moving in the program. And again, it's getting you prepared for the work site. And I would say the last one that we talk about is choices. They made the choice to come into Constructing Hope. So everything that we're teaching you while you're in the program is also about your choices to be successful in the trades. We offer mentoring. So the ongoing mentoring, just again, the culture is very different. And our mentoring, you can have a mentor with us for your lifetime, and hopefully you become a mentor to those who are coming behind you. So that, again, we make jokes about when Constructing Hope very first began, that one of the acronyms in the trades was, it was for fathers, brothers, and in-laws. Well, we couldn't wait to become a father, brother, and an in-law. And in the last 15 years, we have many fathers and brothers that have joined that, I want to say join that population or join that team and join that club, which is a great place to be.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, because the fathers, brothers, and in-laws, the FBI has been the traditional way of recruiting people into the construction trades forever, and it's resulted in a lot of nepotism and, frankly, a very homogenous workforce that doesn't have a lot of diversity. And so I think you hit on why mentorship is so important, because you need somebody who understands the trade, who is there kind of looking out for you and showing you the ropes and teaching you how the culture is different. And people who had a father or a brother or an in-law or a friend or a grandfather or brothers and sisters in the trade, they come ready to go to work because they already understand the culture. So it's great that you're sort of opening up that pathway for people who didn't just kind of get born into the industry.
Yes. And I feel like, along with my sisters at Oregon Tradeswomen, so we're hoping to see more sisters, mothers, and in-laws. And I think we're working on that quite a bit. I know Oregon Tradeswomen numbers for getting women in the trades is phenomenal. So I just wanted to say that too, because Constructing Hope is predominantly men. And most recently, we're about 15% women. The people that we target are mostly homeless and formerly incarcerated, but I can tell you that that number varies between 60 and 80%, because now that we have a presence in the community, more people are walking through the door to say, hey, what is this really about? And I didn't know how to get into this. How do I get signed up? So we're making headway.
That's great. So the mentorship part of it, it's part of your larger mission of not only getting people into the trades, but keeping them there and helping them advance. So are there other tools that you provide your graduates in terms of career retention and advancement?
When we're looking at everybody coming through our program are essentially 100% low income. As you sign up for this program, we verify your income through the employment department. So with that, we can provide support services. Our support services include small things like you're in the program and maybe you don't have a phone. In order to get to work in the trades, a phone is your best friend. That's your number one code of communication to get to work. So we will make sure that your phone bill is paid in order that you get to work. When you graduate the program, we're making sure that you have all the tools, equipment, and proper clothing to go to work. Because let's go back. In the summertime, last year we got to some record heat. So you need to be able to dress appropriate. The other part of that was also nutrition and the value of water and hydrating. So it's all of those things that's combined is what we're teaching you. But let's go back to the support services. We make sure that your union dues are paid. So when you start out, we're going to pay your first union dues. We might even pay your second union dues, just because a lot of times when you start in the industry, sometimes you might work for 2 weeks and you may be laid off for a week, or you might work the entire first 3 months and not have a break. You might be put into overtime. But just making sure that you have those things that's going to help you be successful. The number one thing is childcare. We have made sure that you have childcare while you're in our program, because coming to class at 6:30 in the morning, we're getting you prepared for that childcare to follow you to work, because one of the number one hard opportunities, or one of the barriers, was having childcare to even come to the training. And then once you complete the training, having childcare once you start to work, when you have to be in Salem at 6:30 in the morning. That's a pretty big picture of the kind of support that we provide. And we provide this support for at least the first 2 years, because the first 2 years you may be, going to different places and having short stints, of training before you get to the longer term training that's more sustainable.
That's incredible because you've hit on a number of issues that are major barriers for many people who are considering a career in construction, because the work, it's somewhat inflexible, right? Like you have to be on site in class at a certain time. It's not negotiable and it can't be done remotely. And so childcare is a huge issue in terms of removing a barrier for more women being in the field, but also, I mean, just anybody with a young child. It's a really difficult act to balance, trying to get a child to school in the morning or care for them or pick them up from school if you're supposed to be on a construction site at 6:30 in the morning, and then you have to go to class as part of your apprenticeship program in the evening. So childcare is huge.
And it's a serious commitment, and it is like college. So, getting folks to also understand you can start working and that money is really, really good, and the overtime that comes with it, but you also can't skip the classes. So there's this other part of education. It's free education. And by the time you journey in most trades, you have an associate's degree. So that trade is actually paying for your associate's degree while you're learning and doing hands-on and building your credentials.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not only like college, it is college plus a full-time job because you're working a full day every day. And in most cases, doing your classes at night and coming out with, basically the equivalent of a college degree, but also having a job lined up when you get out and no college debt.
A very well-paying job at the very end of it, I must say.
Yeah, exactly. So it's way better than college from my perspective, right? Because you're getting paid to learn your trade. And then when you get out, you're making an incredible wage. So yeah, I think you're clearing up another misconception that a lot of people might have about construction is that it's somehow less than and not equal to a college education, when in fact it's in many ways a lot better than a college education.
It's a lot better than a college education because when you complete college, now you got to go and find your place of employment. And 9 times out of 10, you don't have the real hands-on experience. So you're not starting at the level that you feel you should because you have the college degree. So you don't have that other experience. Apprenticeship, I think, is the way that a lot of organizations are going to be moving to make sure that people actually know the work and actually have some hands-on in how that work grows, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And it makes sense for employers as well as employees, because the employers have a guaranteed pipeline of people who are learning the skill and learning exactly what they need to do. So there's, they're not having to bring in people who are just completely unprepared for the job. I mean, they know exactly what they're getting. They're teaching them the trade, and know that they're having what they're learning reinforced through the classes that people are taking through their apprenticeship programs. So it's a good deal all the way around, the way I see it. Tell us more about how you go about actually facilitating that permanent job placement for your graduates.
Early on, Constructing Hope decided that the one way we were going to place people is we have to work backwards. So we went to the trades and said, hey, who are you looking for? Everyone said they want to diversify their trades. But what do you want in that person? And what everybody told us is that if you could teach them the soft skills and if you could vet people who really want to do this kind of work, we're going to train them. So we start out with just making sure that we have the safety and these 6 work attributes, that they are, got the work ethics. We're teaching the soft skills. We're giving them we give everybody an introduction to doing carpentry so that we're actually building inside, outside in the weather, so they get the full experience. Being in the classroom, also telling them the importance of being in their classes and just making sure that They have their math, they have the certifications, they've had some hands-on experience. There's also a paper that they have to write while they're in the program, because I can tell you all about the trades, but I want to know, what do you know about it? That's pulling you in that one area that you like to go into. So I would say at the beginning of the class, my whole staff, we ask everybody, like when they're coming in, what trade do you want to go into? Everybody's looking at the money. I want to be an electrician. I'm going to be a plumber. I'm going to be, whatever they've heard the most about. At the end of the day, when they finish going and seeing all the different trades, everybody's changed except that one person who came in. My dad was an electrician. I know the plight. I'm going to do that. So it's amazing to just see that given opportunity, people can find where they really fit. And so that's what we're giving them, is the opportunity to find that trade that they really like. We have built a relationship to see what are the attributes that you need, what are the qualifications that you need. We match you with that trade before you complete our 10-week or 12-week program. Before you leave the program, if you decide that you're going to go into sheet metal, you have had a mock interview with the folks from the sheet metal. You have had a site visit with a hands-on training. You know every aspect of what they require. And your portfolio at the end of class is going to demonstrate your skills, ability, and education for you to move into that trade. It's tailored for that trade.
Oh, that's really amazing. And the approach of having them write a paper about why they want to go into the trades and their specific trade, that's really innovative, and it's really smart, because I imagine it forces people to kind of sit down and sort of take a step back and really think through, okay, I'm about to make this lifelong commitment to a particular trade. Like, why am I doing that? So I think that it probably clarifies things for people and probably makes them sort of more successful in the trade. I mean, have you found that to be the case?
I have found that to be the case because, as I said, when everybody come in, it's like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. And then they see everything that's required and it's like, oh, maybe not. But then I found something that I really like and I enjoyed. And that's where we're saying, don't chase the money. Chase what you like to do. That's when you're going to do your best work, because on that cold, cold, snow, rainy day, I might not want to go out and go on top of a building, but if I love doing this work, I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it's hard work and you're out in the elements, and people need to be aware of that and have that experience before they commit, because I think that's probably one of the reasons that people may wash out of an apprenticeship program, is they're just not mentally and physically prepared for how challenging working outdoors can be for many people.
Challenging or rewarding. I just have to share Jannie Turner. I will never forget Jannie coming through Constructing Hope, and when she shared her story, at that particular time, we did not have a lot of support services in, I think, 2015 as we have today in 2022. She shared her story of being homeless when she came through the program, but I have to say, Jannie Turner today is nowhere near homeless. She's the JATC Joint Apprenticeship Training Coordinator for the laborers. That's an outstanding position for a woman to move through the laborers. And this is where I'm saying, like, this is that small thing that moved her forward. And look at where she is today. And she's an example for all of the other women. But what I really wanted to say about Jannie is Jannie loves working in cement. So now that she's in the office, she's like, oh, I miss mucking cement. And it's like, who would think at first, like, oh, women aren't going to want to do that work. And she's like, no, that was my favorite part of working. I can work that cement to death and I'm an expert at this. And that's what I'm talking about, finding your place.
That's so inspiring. I mean, I can't even imagine what a huge difference that's made in her life, to go from being homeless to basically being a really visible leader in her trade. And that really makes a difference, because especially other women seeing her
and her girls.
Yeah, exactly.
A mother of two, and they look up to her.
Exactly. I mean, I hear that so often from the women or people of color I talk to who got into the trades. And one thing that made a critical difference for a lot of them is seeing somebody who looked like them doing the trade. So that's so important. Can you tell us more about that and how Constructing Hope kind of attracts other people who may not be sort of traditional looking construction workers?
We do it through our website. We always have a story of hope. If you go to our website and you see our stories of hope, you're going to see black, white, brown, native, everybody that started at a very low place where, like I said, just low income. Come on in. Formerly incarcerated, come on in. Even if you have a high school diploma or you've been to college.
Why is it so important for women and people of color to see other people who look like them, who are being successful in the trades?
That is the thing. If I don't see anybody that look like me, I think it's not achievable. It's like when you see someone doing something, it's like, can I do that, or is this door closed for me? I want to go back and just say, let's look at society historically. People of color have been left out and those doors have been closed. And when the door is closed, why do you keep knocking on a door that's not going to open? Until that door opens and you can see someone who looks like you, that's not a door you're going to walk through. Because why would I want to walk through a door that I'm clearly not wanted? And we can look and see that. And society has shown that to us. Me as a black woman, we talked about me growing up in Mississippi. In Mississippi, I didn't talk to white people in 1969. So here we are today, and this is a very, very different society for me. So when we look at how we have excluded people from different things, if they don't see anybody that look like them, I've never been exposed to it, how am I going to try something I don't even know anything about or I've never been exposed to? I don't know how to try it. So it's just something that's just unattainable.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I mean, it's really amazing that you're giving people in the community hope that they can actually find a way out of poverty and a way back from maybe incarceration or another challenge in their lives.
So here we found that storytelling is the way, because when people look on our website and they see someone's story, somebody who's been buried in the system, formerly incarcerated, and they share their story about how I overcame all of these things, it gives other people the incentive to walk through the door. Most people don't believe that this is true. They think it's too good to be true and there's something else with it. But the one thing that we do is everybody that graduates from the program gets a chance to come back and give 3 minutes of fame. That 3 minutes of fame is what tells the person who's sitting in the seat where they are that what we're telling you is really true. And I'm a perfect example. This is not somebody from 5 years ago. This is from 3 months ago. I was sitting where you are, and this is what I'm doing today. So then they get inspired to say, okay, it's building my belief in myself, my confidence that I can do it. Because usually it's just a lack of confidence to walk through the door because I can't take another instance of something that I tried really hard and it didn't work out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can imagine how difficult it is for somebody who has been incarcerated or has grown up in poverty or experienced homelessness to have hope that there is a path forward for them to a productive and successful life. So it's incredible that you're doing that. And the storytelling has to be really powerful.
And I'm going to say the last thing, I think it's my team. I have a diverse team. We talk about diversity. And I would say if you come to Constructing Hope, everybody is going to find somebody on that staff that they can relate to. Whether it is the instructor, whether it's the life skills instructor, or your case manager, or your job developer. So that's the two positions that I didn't talk about. When you come into the program, there's a case manager that you're assigned to. That person follows you from beginning to end through everything. You have a job developer that you're working with. Your job developer is helping you put your portfolio together, but that job developer is handing you off to whatever trade you're going to and helping you with your mock interview and those things. That's the person who's contacting you and checking in with you for the next 2 years to see if everything is okay with you. Did you fall down? Let's help you get up. So I think it's also a wonderful team that has the same team approach of helping.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a really powerful model, because what you're doing there is you're helping people not slip through the cracks, giving them the support system they need to figure out how to manage the demands of the apprenticeship program, because it's incredibly demanding if you do not have a built-in support system. So it's wonderful that you're actually providing that, not just the job skills piece of it, but also the real life support from other humans that people really need to be successful.
It was very fortunate during COVID. We got dollars, and I want to say thanks Biden, thank everybody. Those dollars that they provided for support was rent assistance and just utilities and those things that saved lives. It saved so many lives of people who were already working and fell on a hard spot. And that allowed us, because of the support system for those 2 years, to help them stay intact until they got back to work, as well as help us get our current students out to work when they had nothing and was challenging with their rent situation. So what other occupation provides that kind of support?
Yeah. I can't think of one. I mean, what you're describing, that model doesn't really exist anywhere else that I'm aware of. So it's amazing. It's amazing what you're doing. And I know one of the other supportive services that you provide where people need it is if they have a criminal background or they've lost a driver's license, you help them with those issues so they can go on to re-enter the workforce and get where they need to go. Can you tell us a little bit more about those services and why they're important?
Yes, when we started working with formerly incarcerated, we noticed that people were coming out of the system. They didn't have ID, they didn't have a driver's license, and those are important pieces in order to apply. So we began, let's start, when we meet you, let's start preparing what is it going to take for you to be successful. So one of the first things we do is look at what is it going to take for you to get your driver's license back, and can we do this within 12 weeks? We also have started an expungement program because over the years we found that if a person has a felony background, and sometimes there's a 10-year background check, if you haven't committed a crime within 10 years, why are we walking people off of a job because of a felony that happened 10 years ago, but they haven't had any infractions? So we're working on expungements because even when you've been working for a while, that's a pretty expensive cost. So again, that's a barrier that we'd like to remove. So again, you're removing really good workers when we have such a demand for more with something that they've already paid that debt to society. So again, it's just us removing barriers. So making sure that if people need to have an expungement, we get that done so they can move into management positions for anything over 10 years that is allowable within the state requirements. Making sure that they have a driver's license is getting you prepared to apply. So that's why at the very beginning, by the end of the 10 weeks, and sometimes it might take about 2 months if you have things that's in more than one state. But it's really important that when you graduate Constructing Hope, we have touch points to make sure that you have everything that you need to apply to that union. Otherwise, we're not going to have you apply until you're ready. We'll put you into a temporary job so that we can build on that piece. So when you go to the trades, you should be in their top 100% to be employed.
And something you touched on earlier when you were talking about your team at Constructing Hope is the fact that you have a diverse team, and that helps have everybody who comes through the door have someone to relate to. And I think that's such an important point to emphasize, because I think a lot of diversity initiatives fail because you're just recruiting a diverse workforce in, but not changing your own culture within the organization and having people in leadership who actually are diverse and reflect the community. Can you tell us a little bit more about why it's important to have a diverse leadership team?
I would say that, first of all, if you're not a person of color, you haven't walked in my shoes. So something that might be really simple that you're just saying, I don't understand why they don't have it. It's just, but if you walked in my shoes, I understand why you don't have it. Like I said, to look at the plight from someone who's coming from incarceration versus someone who's homeless, you would just think, oh, they can just do these things. And it's like, I'm living in my car. There's a whole lot that I can't do. So it's important that you have somebody that has compassion to know when people truly and honestly just need help, because you can understand how one thing, when I write grants, we always say that we're helping the person who has the weakest safety net. If I don't have gas, I can't get to work. I didn't get to work. I lost my job today. I lost my job today. Now I can't pay rent. That's, our population is either one paycheck away from work or 3 days away from being evicted because I didn't have the money to do something and I just need that start. So having people who have been through similar situations can understand what it takes for that plight to get back. But somebody who's always been privileged has no idea. And, everybody thinks you can just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't even have boots.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people who do come from a more privileged background aren't even really aware of the sort of the cycle that being incarcerated puts someone in, because coming out of prison with a record, it automatically excludes you from most types of work other than construction. And I think people don't realize that, or losing your driver's license, like what a cascading effect that has on your ability to be a productive member of society.
When you come out of prison, and if you have any children, and most people after 8 years, the average person's getting 8 years. When we did the 3 strikes, you're out. 8 years later, think about where you were 8 years ago and what your income was and all of that. But I was going to say they're so buried with the fines of getting your license back if you didn't have it, and those fines that if you had tickets that you needed to pay. Most people have children. Child support continues to tick while you're in there. So now you have all those barriers, and now you're only making $20 an hour, but your child support is taking half of that. You still need to pay rent. You still need to do all of these things to be successful. How does that work? Now I have more than one mother. There's child support here. There's child support there. Now I don't have a paycheck left. So it's just having people understand why they need at least 2 years of support in order to be successful, because there's too many outside things. But the other side of this is I always like to tell my staff about when we first started Constructing Hope, and there was a retired laborer that was working for us, but basically volunteering because of the amount of money that we could afford to pay him. He was volunteering. His retirement monthly check was more than my monthly salary. I kept wanting to point that out to say that you're putting in hard work now, but when you look at what someone makes in the trade, and like you said, let's not forget those benefits. Those benefits are more substantial than the average person working in an office in a management situation. So they're along the same levels as the doctors and lawyers who are making basically their same wages in their retirement. It's sustainable versus the average person who has to live off their city retirement or something else.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge benefit, that pension. Because it gives people the ability to maintain a comfortable lifestyle after they've put in all those years of really tough physical labor. It's really important. And I mean, we saw that too when I was running the Milwaukee Mechanical Contracting Association. We started a youth apprenticeship program, and we would go into the schools and talk with teachers and counselors and principals about, like, here's the wage and here's how it goes up and here are the benefits. And we would have educators who would say, oh my gosh, how do I get into this trade? Because this person is making more than I am as a principal, and they have a pension. So it's really dramatic.
Yeah. So for anybody starting a pre-apprenticeship training program, make sure you're paying your staff well, because they will turn over.
That's right. Once they figure out like the golden ticket of the construction trades, it's going to be hard to keep people in the office.
Yeah, we're selling the tickets, and then it's like my staff are buying them too. It's a good ticket.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, I mean, and you talked about the importance of having people who have compassion. And can you tell us a little bit more about what it is that drew you specifically to working on these issues?
It was coming to Irvington Covenant and seeing the people, and as I worked there and heard their stories. When I go back to 2005, when my mom passed away, I have a master's degree, and I was applying for jobs, and I wasn't getting any takers. 2005, we're in recession. I looked at people who had a formal background, and if I'm not getting any takers, and I have a master's degree, and I've set up customer service programs at an airport, and I'm not being looked at, who's going to see them? And that's what I just kind of caught on fire for. If I could change one person's life, this is also going to grow me into a different direction. And that was it. And I saw the change. I saw the hope. I saw people just hold on to something for the first time, because these men were talking about all of the letdowns that they had throughout life. And some of them didn't have a GED. So it was an education thing. But when you look at the trades, you can get into the trades with the GED, with 8th grade learning, because the difference is if you're dedicated, they're going to teach you. You have to have the basics. And that's what I heard. And so here was just an opportunity to give somebody something whose safety net was much, much smaller than mine. And for me, as a Black woman who grew up in a single household, but I grew up in a house. My mom owned a home. I didn't grow up in an apartment. And I saw that all the people that grew up in an apartment, then they continued to grow up in apartments. I didn't know anything about an apartment. So for the first time for me, I didn't know that I was privileged as a Black woman. So I saw my privilege, and I wanted to reach back and do something different so that I could share what little bit my mom taught me with somebody else.
That's really inspiring. That's really amazing. And I'm glad that you did, because you're making a big difference in people's lives and in this industry. So I know that recently Constructing Hope had a grand reopening event for your training center. Can you tell us a little bit about the training center and the grand reopening?
That is probably the most exciting thing that happened to me since I started here. We have wanted to expand the program, and we saw the need to. Prior to COVID in 2019, we had a grant. We have a grant from Prosper Portland, and we work with Murdoch Foundation, and we got enough money to expand our current building that we are renting so that we could move from classes of 25 to 45. We saw the need in the industry. We saw it coming about, how you needed to increase the numbers. And the only way that we could increase those numbers would be to make sure that our space was large enough. And also in growing the staff there over that period of time, we just came from a staff of 4 or 5 to now we have a staff of 10. So growing staff, growing department, we expanded our office. Now with COVID, this has become a 3-year project. It was hard getting products, things were slow, and the weather was everything. The fires were happening. The cost of wood went up. So we're very happy now that we are not completely back in our building, but our building is complete. We're working on some sound barriers, and we're getting some furniture in right now. We had an awesome donation from California Closet. We had awesome donations from industry. I want to say Hoffman, Pence, Pacific Northwest Carpenters, the trades, all of our partners, to help us expand our building. So we are now ready for classes of 45. But we are moving forward with classes of 25 because pandemic, the numbers have been lower. We don't have a presence in the community. We haven't been open. The prisons and jails have been closed. So outreach has been basically shut down, and it's pretty much a word of mouth. So we're looking forward to having a class of 25 this summer, as well as this fall. And we're hoping to increase those numbers in 2023. Not too fast, but hopefully by the end of 2023, we'll have even higher numbers.
Oh, that's really exciting. I mean, just being able to double your capacity, basically, it's going to have such a ripple effect in the community. That's really exciting to hear. Wonderful. I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things. Is there anything else that you think our listeners should know?
Well, I would say probably what's coming up next for Constructing Hope. Constructing Hope has now been around for 15 years. So this year, we are so excited that we're celebrating 15 years. We became a certified pre-apprenticeship training program in 2007 when we were Irvington Covenant. We changed our name to Constructing Hope in 2010 when the church gave us the program in 2009. It took a little while for us to get the name change and get settled in the building with the staff of 4. So I am really excited to have made it this far. And I think probably my greatest news is in the midst of COVID. Last year, we had 100% placement. That was a great way to start a 15-year anniversary because that's someplace we've been meaning to get to. And I want the whole state to know that this is a great model and you don't have to hear it from me. Go to our website, take a look at the success stories. You're not going to see, you're going to see all kinds of people. And since inception of this program, we have 10 people that have become contractors. One of the most recent stories is Jerry Jones, who is your first African-American solar contractor. We had 2 of our graduates, actually part of our remodel contract. So one had a cleaning contract. The other one has a painting business. And just the remarkable stories of just given opportunity. People can do so many things and grow in so many ways that it only takes one of us to just give a little help. Be there to answer a question, fund our program and help one person change their lives. It's going to affect so many families and growing from low income to becoming middle income, or as I say, formerly incarcerated, where we are using taxpayers' dollars to become taxpayers.
That's amazing. I mean, what an inspiring story. And I think you highlighted something that a lot of people outside of this industry don't realize either, that an apprenticeship, it's not just a pathway into a trade. I mean, once you have that skill, the sky is the limit. Like, as you said, you have 10 people who have gone from the pre-apprenticeship program all the way up to owning their own contracting business, which is amazing. And I'm sure you've got people everywhere in between who are foremen, who are superintendents, project managers. So, I mean, it's a really flexible career pathway that I think a lot of people don't realize, that if you don't want to stay in the field forever, you don't have to. There are a lot of other ways that you can take this education.
Construction is a college.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. As we said, it's better than college. So, yeah, as you mentioned, Pat, your Constructing Hope's website is full of inspiring stories and information about the organization. So I will make sure that there is a link to your website in the show notes for this episode. So, Pat, I want to thank you again for all the great work you're doing in the community. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for having me.